Hi everyone, my name is Ross the Alcheminiaturist, and today I want to build a Toff. Now, you know me, my stuff's weird, so let's make a weird Toff. Let's make a tall Toff. To start off, I wanted to have my Toff stand out, and with that, I needed a body. So I used a Slenderman body that I found on myminifactory.com and scaled up about 100%. I then cut the legs off of the body at about the pelvis using a small hobby saw. I then filed the cut down to being flat and glued on the turnip torso that I printed, also scaled up about 100% using superglue, holding it in place for a couple of seconds to let the superglue cure to each part successfully. To get the arms, I sawed off one actual arm and one tentacle off of the body of Slenderman, again using the hobby saw and cleaning up the cuts with the file. I attached the arm and tentacle to the body with more superglue. I also attached a backpack to the Toff, but forgot to record it. I also cut off the Slenderman's head and glued it onto the left shoulder of the Toff, as I wanted to have a weird head-like thing seeming to whisper ideas into my Toff's head. Next, I grabbed the green stuff and used it to cover up the problem shoulder areas and make them into patches of fur that the Toff had affixed to his armor as a way of trying to ape regality. It was also a good way to hide where I had affixed the head to the body as well. Since I had more green stuff already mixed, I flattened it out and then cut it into a rectangle and frayed one of the edges to give him a side cape. I then added some more superglue onto the model and then took some gamer's grass and placed it on the superglue. I have found that the adhesive that the gamer's grass has isn't enough to keep the tufts on my models when I go to paint them and add some streaking grime. With the model itself built, I took some cork, ripped it up, and glued it to the base to give a sort of brook feeling to it, like he was standing over a patch of water. When all that was done, it was time for painting. I primed the model with a mix of AK's and Vallejo's black primers, as my AK's was at the end of the bottle. I then dry brushed the Toff with Vallejo's medium sea gray and tried to get all of the raised areas with it. Then I went over those areas again, but this time with Vallejo's dead white to give more highlights to certain areas. I tried to use Citadel's Skeleton Horde to paint the pants, but it didn't look well, and so later I went over it with Rhinox hide. I used Army Painter's Poppy Red to the additional head to give it a weird bloody sack feel to it, as if I painted it anything else, it wouldn't have stood out as weirdly as I needed it to. Then, for the armor, I painted it all with Army Painter's Enchanted Steel, trying to make sure that I didn't get it on any areas, as it just makes it easier if I keep within my own personal lines. I then painted all of the cloth, including the boots, with Citadel's Leviathan Purple. Like I had mentioned before, this Toff is trying to ape a higher standing than he currently may have, and so it is reflected in the clothing choices as well as the colors. Rhinox hide was brought out for all of the leather parts, including the pants, to cover the terrible coverage that the skeleton horde did in the beginning, as well as the fur on his shoulders. I brought back out the dead white for the flesh, as, in my head, the people who live in Cyst don't seem to get the proper nutrients. Like, at all. Whether it be from the sun or the food, they just seem sickly to me. And yes, this is on purpose, painted some terrible lines on the back of the clothing, which I have now learnt is called a vent, because of course the vent would have terrible lines in it in a desperate attempt to help make this Toff look more regal. To add to the sickly feeling that I wanted the Toff to have, I went over the white flesh with Skeleton Horde, and this time it actually did its job and looked half decent in its application. Last but not least is the best part of any Turnip28 model build, the streaking grime. Now, I could go on and on and on and on and on about streaking grime, about how great it is and how it makes any and all of the models that you put it on look much more dirty than before, and with next to no effort on the painter's part. Or I could go into detail about how easy it is to apply by using a brush that you don't really care about. Like maybe a brush that you bought 100 of off of Amazon for about 20 Canadian dollars. Like I could do that and let this streaking grime application run for its time, but I won't. That's not fair. I'd just be padding my video out then. After giving the streaking grime some time to set, so about 15 minutes, I went back over it with mineral spirits and a Q-tip and took a bunch of it off. Next, I slapped some Vallejo's Diorama FX mud to the base. And once the mud was dry, I put some swamp green water gel in between the mud. And then it was on to the beauty shots. As he spins, I just want to say thank you for being here for this video. I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.